Hey all, Dr. Jared here, proud to be coming to you with our version of Nutrition 101, the basics for what I believe you should know about eating healthy and living healthy regarding food and supplementation, but mostly focused on food. This is what we would consider to be the baseline of knowledge for someone who's looking to eat healthy and live healthy. I will openly tell you this is not all encompassing. This is estimated to be less than an hour, and it's the starting point. So we do have advanced classes on customized topics like blood pressure, weight loss, cancer prevention, different topics like that. But ultimately, the goal for today is to share with you things that you may or may not know with the intention of empowering you to live a better life, be healthier, have less pain, have more energy, have a stronger immune system, whatever may be your motivating factor for spending and investing this time. And I really just want to start today with appreciating you for taking the time to do so. It shows that you're a person who takes responsibility, doesn't rely on, the outside things to tell you what's right, but actually you're doing your own research, your own investment in time and education to get the results that you want for yourself, your family, whoever you may love and care about. But a few things just as a starting point as far as philosophical points. Number one, everything that I share with you is designed to look at the root cause of the problem. My personal belief is in America, that is one of the fundamental flaws with healthcare is we don't actually look at the root cause. Your blood pressure's high, take a pill. This is high, take a pill. This is off, take a pill. This is off, whatever. Often not looking at simple or more productive things. And if you are at a point where you may absolutely need that, putting a plan together to get you healthier so that you're not on it for life, dealing with the side effects and all the other problems that go with it. So first of all, looking at the root cause. The second thing is, quoting Hippocrates, looking at food as thy medicine. So not looking at it as something for purely enjoyment, but how to combine enjoyment with health, investing in your health. So lastly, investing in your health. And we talk about that with chiropractic care. We talk about it with detoxing. We talk about it with any of this. Ultimately, you're making a decision to invest in your health when you buy higher quality foods, when you take the time to cook, when you plan out your meals for the week, things like that. So everything that I share here is based off of not just opinion, but also certifications that I've personally done, books that I've read, and it follows for those of you that are more knowledgeable along the lines of things like paleo, keto, max living, nutrition plans, things of that nature. We're not necessarily going to be all vegetarian or low calorie, things like that, but more eating what fuels the body and eating very whole foods, going in that direction. So just to go ahead and get started, I will tell you for some, this can be overwhelming. And so I'm going to try very hard to give you some simple steps. Simple step number one, as you take notes, and as you look at things that you need to transition out, instead of completely throwing away everything in your cupboard and refrigerator and freezer and things like that, my encouragement to you is to pick 2 or 3 things that you're going to buy different every time you go to the grocery store. What research shows is that if you bought or improved the ingredients or foods that you're buying, and you change 2 to 3 things every time you went to the grocery store, within 4 to 6 months, you'd completely transition over your pantry, refrigerator, and freezer. Additionally, for those that are note takers, note taking is shown to help with memorization. It's shown to be more effective, but we do have a mini notes cheat sheet at the office. So if you're an active client and you watch this and you want the notes, we do have a simple note sheet of some of the basics, the right cooking oils versus the bad cooking oils, the clean 15 versus the dirty dozen for fruits and vegetables, the core rules of the advanced plan that I'll go over later in this seminar. So if you like that, basically you just need to show up to the office and request it. We do have extra copies made. So we're going to start with the macros, the carbs, fats, and proteins. I mean, if you can truly understand that and what to eat and when to eat it and what to buy, I mean, you're going to be light years ahead of most Americans as far as eating. And here's the simplest thing. So simple action step number one: if you're cooking with the wrong cooking oils, you could eat the exact same foods and still dramatically improve your health. So cooking oils and fats are severely misunderstood. Currently, in my opinion, the American Heart Association, the American Medical Association gives absolutely horrific advice for truly having health. And so we're going to start with the three breakdowns of fat. So there's saturated fats, omega-6s, and omega-3s. There are more than that, but for the basics: saturated fats, omega-6s, omega-3s. So some saturated fats, and these are things that don't go bad with heat. So these are going to be the oils that you're going to want to cook with most frequently. Certain deep fried foods, horrible in unhealthy saturated fats, but good saturated fats would be things like coconut oil, avocado oil, and grass-fed butter. Those things are considered, in my opinion, to be net neutral. And again, they're a healthy cooking oil and they don't go bad in most cases at higher heat. So if you were going to cook or bake at high temperatures, these are the things to use. So you might find, so for instance, this is coconut oil that I purchased from Woodman's. This is what we use in our house most frequently. So coconut oil. Secondly, avocado oil. So this is Primal Kitchen avocado oil. I like this. If you don't like the coconut flavor tends to be a little bit sweet. If you don't like coconut flavor, that avocado oil, in my opinion, is more tasteless. And lastly, for butter, Kerrygold, made from grass-fed cows, pure Irish butter. These are some of the saturated fats that should just be a part of your kitchen. For people that are trying to balance their macros, for athletes, for people that work out a lot, for people trying to grow healthy kids, one of the big misses is healthy fat. A lot of people don't get enough healthy fat. Statistically in America, almost half our calories could or should come from healthy fats. And instead, about 70% of the average American's calories come from carbs. And most of those are refined carbohydrates, the horrible ones, the ones that cause diabetes, the ones that cause high cholesterol, the ones that cause inflammation and therefore can lead to heart attacks, the ones that fuel cancer because cancer feeds off of sugar, all that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of people say, well, what about olive oil? So again, extra virgin olive oil, great choice for your overall health as far as eating. But olive oil does go bad at higher temperatures. So you have to either eat it raw, like in salad dressings, or at medium, low, or low cooking. So more like a slow simmer or, that sort of thing. Olive oil is an omega-6. So omega-6s are actually inflammatory fats, but they are necessary. So there are certain omega-6s that are good for you, but it's a big thing is the ratios, omega-3s to omega-6s. Omega-6s are inflammatory. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. Most Americans have way too many omega-6s and way too little omega-3s. So as far as fat goes, to get enough omega-3s, the estimated serving size is eating fish 2 to 3 times per week to get enough omega-3s. If you're not eating fish 2 to 3 times per week, then you should supplement with a high quality omega-3 supplement like the ones that we carry in the office to help balance that out. 4 to 1, somewhere between 4 to 1 and 2 to 1 ratio is the ratio that a healthy human should be at. And sadly, the average American is somewhere between 25 or 50 to 1 omega-6 to omega-3, which again increases the likelihood of heart attacks, increases the likelihood of high blood pressure, and so many other things that also can make you feel more pain, more lethargic, less clear in your thinking. So getting healthy fats, just switching over your fats could make a huge, huge difference for you. So that's a baseline. Another thing I want to just talk about as a starting point is what should you take for supplementation? So just about everybody, unless you grow in your own garden, eat essentially perfectly all the time, almost everybody needs to consume a multivitamin, including children. We carry a kid's multi, a men's multi, and a women's multivitamin. A multivitamin is going to have the high quality nutrients that are often missing from foods or from not eating perfect, or that have just frankly been depleted from the soil. Now, I want to make a clear differentiation here. Vitamins are not all created equal. In fact, most synthetic vitamins are absolutely worthless. So, I always quote the study. I believe it was funded by a drug company, amazingly enough, that owns the cheap multivitamin. So, Men's One a Day, Centrum Silver, some of these synthetic vitamins are made in a laboratory. They're not extracted from food. And the simplest thing I can tell you is, for instance, if you look at vitamin A, there are at least 500 forms of vitamin A when you eat a carrot. So really, our very simple scientific mind says all vitamin A is the same, but the body needs all the different types from food to really utilize vitamin A the way that it should for your eyes, for your skin, for your immune system, for whatever. In a synthetic vitamin, you're getting one form of vitamin A, and in lies the problem. In fact, they've shown that over 90% of supplements that are consumed are either worthless or harmful for you. So if you're buying cheap vitamins at the store and you think that's okay, it's probably a waste of time and a waste of money, and it could even be harmful for you. So again, the basics, if you're only going to take one vitamin, I would take a multivitamin. Secondly, if you don't eat enough fish, an omega-3. Lastly, for most people, they need vitamin D, especially if you live here in the Midwest and you're watching this in the Midwest. As you're watching this recording, there's obviously snow on the ground behind me. And so most people are not getting outside to get sun at least half the year. And for those people that work inside, most people don't get enough vitamin D all year. Vitamin D is essential for your immune system. It's also essential for the production of hormones. For example, the hormone serotonin, the feel-good hormone, it's made up predominantly of cholesterol and vitamin D. So if you don't have enough of either one, your body may not be able to make enough serotonin. So for instance, if you think of in the winter, like in January, February, when people start to have seasonally affective disorder or, SAD, if you really looked into that, many experts estimate that it's really people's vitamin D getting depleted, therefore their serotonin getting depleted, and therefore their, the anxiety or depression or down mood that tends to come with that. So that's the basics on supplements. Again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on supplements today, but those are the basics. So that's fats. So getting healthy fats from healthy meats, getting healthy fats from your cooking oils, getting healthy fats, eating those foods and whole foods, like eating an avocado or eating coconut or eating certain things like that, nuts and seeds. Those are great ways to get healthy fats. Now, protein. So number one, easiest change is to change your cooking oil. Number one, bang for your buck is to start buying better quality protein. The protein that you consume, if you can afford to purchase the better, is to buy it organic. For red meat, you'd want to buy grass-fed red meat. For chicken and turkey and poultry type or white meats, you're going to look for free range, and also never fed antibiotics. Like, those are the basics. But the reason why meat is the most important is because meat tends to hold about 10 times more toxicity than fruits or vegetables that were sprayed with the herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, whatever. So think about that. While it might be twice as expensive, the meat holds 10 times more toxicity than fruits and vegetables. So meat, dairy, everything else. And again, the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen is going to be on that sheet if you'd like to request it. One of the simple ways to look at it is, if you're going to eat a fruit or vegetable where you eat the skin, you probably want to buy that organic more than if you remove the skin. So for instance, if you're going to eat strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, apples, things like that, and you're going to eat the skin, better to buy organic. Oranges, avocados, bananas, stuff like that, where you take the skin off, less necessary to buy organic if you're on a budget for eating or investing. So as far as protein goes, those are the basics. The other thing is with dairy, I mentioned that I personally agree with a lot of what they talk about with paleo eating. So for instance, in paleo eating, they talk about, what did your ancestors eat? What do animals eat? And what they've shown is that dairy is one of those things that no other animal eats the milk of another animal long term or into adulthood. While they do eat things like other animals' meat, they do eat eggs, they do eat some of that kind of stuff. And what research shows is that breaking down dairy, your body becomes less and less efficient as you get older. In fact, from 0 through age 4, you have more enzymes that can break down dairy. Of course, it makes sense. Your mother can breastfeed a child up to those ages. Now, most women finish breastfeeding, 6 months or a year or 18 months or 2 years or whatever it is. But the child can consistently breastfeed or break down milk for several years into life. But after that, age 4, most people have stopped being able to break it down super efficiently. You might even hear the people who are lactose intolerant or, something like that. So if you're going to consume dairy, dairy is an inflammatory food for most people, not only because of the less ability to break it down, but of course, the way that we produce dairy. There's just a reality that many cows are fed stimulant type steroids. They're given antibiotics, and just like if mom consumes a medication, that medication goes into the breast milk for the baby at some level. When dairy cows are fed steroids or antibiotics or these different things, some of that does transfer into the milk and goes into your body. So they can be very harmful for you. Additionally, in America, it's required to pasteurize any liquid-based dairy, which kills the protein. It makes the protein about half as usable, and it makes the calcium, and a lot of people consume dairy for calcium, it makes the calcium only about 10% as usable as it otherwise would be. So think about that. It might say 20% of your daily value of calcium, but you can only use about 10% of it. So if you're going to consume dairy, which I'll openly tell you that I do, you can consume dairy in the grass-fed butters or in ideally grass-fed organic raw cheese. Those are the two best ways to get it because that type makes it easier for you to break down, and it has more usable protein. It has way more usable calcium. So if you're consuming protein, or when you're consuming protein, that's a way to consume dairy in there as well. Now, how much protein should you consume? Well, there's two parts to this. Number one, how much can your body absorb in a given meal? And so, again, what research shows is that you cap out at absorbing somewhere around 30 grams of protein in a meal. That's about a 6-ounce piece of meat. Now, many people are going to consume more than that because cooked protein can't be 100% absorbed, but raw proteins or low heat processed proteins can. So the protein that are in vegetables, the protein that's, say, for instance, in like this grass-fed whey protein that we carry, that is 100% usable. So, 20 grams of protein in that can 100% be absorbed, but 30 grams is the max. So you should estimate to try and get somewhere between 15 to 30 grams of protein per meal. And 15 to 30 grams a meal is considered, depending on your metabolism, somewhere between 2 and 3 hours. So if you don't exercise a lot, if you don't have a physical job, you probably need less protein overall. But remember, protein is used as the building block to repair tissue, and then fat is the outer layer of every single cell in your body. So you need way more quality protein and fat than most people consume, and you need less carbs than most people consume. So keep that in mind. If you're exercising intensely, like if you're exercising 3 or more days a week, the more you exercise, typically the more protein you need. There are different estimates, but for instance, if you exercise at a moderate level, you need at least half your body weight in protein in a day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you need to get 100 grams of protein ideally. If you're exercising intensely, you may need to get, a gram of protein for every pound that you weigh if you're exercising 5, 6, 7 days a week, because you need that protein to repair for the breakdown of muscle tissue and other other tissues in the body that are affected. So getting enough protein is essential. Getting it in the right forms is very important. For most, or for, I should say, for many athletes, doing protein shakes between meals may be essential. I personally take anywhere between 1 and 3 protein shakes a day in water, with the exercise level that I personally operate at, between basketball and weightlifting and some of the other things that I enjoy doing. It's necessary to maintain ideal lean muscle, which is therefore metabolism, physique, all the things that many people look at. So before we transition to carbs, the last main bullet point is if you're going to overconsume something in calories, your best out of the 3 macros is to overconsume fat. Your body actually can choose to not digest certain fats if you don't need them, and it can go out of you in your digestive tract. However, both protein, if you consume too much protein and you can't use it, it can turn into a ketone, which can turn eventually into body fat. But the fastest way to create more unhealthy body fat is to eat too many carbs. Excess carbs convert into body fat. Most specifically, they also are severely inflammatory. I mentioned earlier, and you may or may not realize this, but consuming cholesterol is not how your body ends up with high cholesterol. There are genetic factors, but many people avoid cholesterol and eat more carbs. It is the most horrible advice a medical professional can give you, and yet it's still commonly given. And so why is that? Well, your liver makes 80% of the cholesterol that your body has in it. So an unhealthy diet, a low exercise person tends to have more bad cholesterol and less and more cholesterol overall. So if you want to lower your cholesterol, cut carbs, cut bread, see what happens. Also, there is a healthy amount of cholesterol. One of the things you have to look at that you need to empower yourself is why is this medication being given to me? It's pretty sad, but depending on when you look, the 2001 cholesterol guidelines are questionable at best. The lowering of cholesterol, the normal cholesterol from 240 down to 200. I mean, there's all sorts of issues. And if you haven't seen that in the news with the uttermost absurdity of media propaganda, I mean, 9 out of the 15 people that made the decision were paid at least $50,000 by the same drug company that was requesting the lowering of cholesterol data. There's something called the 2017 blood pressure guidelines, which showed that for people with blood pressure under 140 or under 150 and then under 90 for systolic, diastolic blood pressure, continuing to take a medication caused more harm than good. Yet plenty of doctors keep people on drugs. Acid reflux medications, which are commonly consumed due to poor diet and antibiotic consumption, either from the doctor or from antibiotics in certain foods, leads to it's the last time I read about it, the 4th highest likelihood of a drug causing cancer. Additionally, it decreases your body's ability to absorb calcium, therefore likely leading to or increasing your chance of developing osteoporosis as you age. There are simple solutions. There are acid reflux protocols, and we can show you those at the office. So if you have reflux and you're watching this, set up a time to sit down with our nutritionist, Mackenzie, and she can show you how to, through changing your lifestyle potentially and healthily, get off those medications, live better, feel better, and have a better quality of life. Now, going into carbohydrates. Yes, carbohydrates are necessary. Carbohydrates are necessary for your body, and growing people, so for instance, growing children, athletes, they do need more carbohydrates. But people who are more sedentary, carbohydrates are very little need. You should get the majority of your carbohydrates from fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. That's where they should come from. They don't need to come from bread. You don't need to get your fiber from bread. You don't need to have pasta to get enough healthy carbohydrates. It's just reality. I'm not saying don't eat pasta or that I don't eat pasta periodically or something like that, but it's not necessary. So just know that cutting refined carbohydrates for those that overconsume is one of the best things you can do. Type 2 diabetes, formerly called adult onset diabetes, is hugely and largely caused by lifestyle alone. There are some genetic predispositions, but they're overwhelmingly minimal compared to other genetic diseases. But type 2 diabetes or adult onset diabetes is caused from an improper diet over a long period of time with not enough exercise to get the sugar out of your blood and into your body. And it's due to damaging the receptors for insulin and causing the pancreas's overproduction of insulin. And something to consider, if you're controlling your blood sugar with diabetes medication right now, many studies show that you're wearing out your pancreas as severely or more severely as someone who has unregulated. I'm not saying don't take your medication. It may be necessary at the time, but not changing your diet, not looking at investing in your health, and not looking for the root cause of the problem could literally cause you years off of your life, time away from your family, loss of limbs. I mean, horrible, horrible things. I'll leave it at that. But just remember, drugs have side effects. They all do, whether you feel them or not. And cumulatively, the longer you take them, the harder they are on your body. Sugar itself is devoid of just about every white bread, white flour. They're net negatives. They actually cost your body more nutrients than they put in, more micronutrients than they put into you. So those are the worst thing you can eat. Now, if you're going to try and upgrade from that, a lot of people will switch to whole grain, brown rice, whole grain pastas, and those absolutely are better because they have some nutritional value. But there was actually a study that showed that those are still so refined that, for instance, if you eat 2 pieces of whole grain bread, your blood sugar still spikes more than eating a Snickers bar in some studies. So, I mean, think about that. I'm not saying a Snickers bar is healthier. What I am saying is don't look at bread as healthy. Now, there are breads that don't raise your blood sugar as much. Specifically, sourdough bread does not raise your blood sugar as significantly, but it is still harmful for you. I mean, it's still a processed grain, but the way that it's made doesn't raise your blood sugar as significantly. So it is a better choice even than whole grain bread. If you're going to consume bread, sprouted bread is the best. They've literally taken the seed, let it get into moisture. It starts to sprout to grow a new seed, and that's when it's converted into bread. So it's the highest nutrient count. It's much better for you as a whole. So there's a couple different kinds. There's Ezekiel bread. There's Angelic Organics. But sprouted bread is the best. Now, if you're talking about rice is better than brown rice is wild rice, you might notice it's a little nuttier, a little crispier. Again, it's got more nutrient content, but you're better off from using rice is to consume seeds. So flaxseed is a healthy option, but it's tough to cook with. But one very good substitute is called quinoa. So quinoa is a rice substitute. You boil it in water just like rice. I literally just consumed it last night. We cooked salmon in the oven and then put it over a bed of quinoa that we cooked in bone broth. So one way to get a healthy amount of protein with high minerality, so things that are really good for your gut, is to consume bone broth. So this Pacific Foods is the lowest cost bone broth in the store, especially if you're going to get the organic. And I like unsalted because I want to add my own salt. So salt, and we're going to cover this later, is actually good for you, but you have to consume the right types. So we'll cover that later. But I had quinoa with peas and carrots in bone broth with salmon over top of it. It is a staple. We eat that at least once a week at night. My kids eat it. It's excellent, excellent for you. And it's quinoa is higher in protein. It's got great nutrient content. So those are better options for it. Lastly, with pastas, pasta is a little tougher because it has to be, refined more. But, white to whole grain to, there are certain like quinoa pastas and stuff like that. But there's also one types, they call them bean pastas or lentil pastas. So black bean pasta, mung bean pasta. If you're, for instance, love to cook Italian, black bean pasta is my personal favorite. You boil it in water. You put whatever sauces, whether it's red sauce or olive oil based sauce, and then, the vegetables and the garlic and the meats and whatever you're going to put in there. But there are ways to make it very high protein. One other thing, now you can't buy this at the store, but spaghetti squash. So if you want an all vegetable base, you can cut up a spaghetti squash in half. You can then bake it in the oven. You can scrape it out into long strings and make spaghetti squash into the spaghetti noodle. And you can also do that with zucchini. There's a grinder that you can make zucchini noodles. So there are ways to make it very, very healthy. We just had that on Sunday. It tastes excellent. It's good for you. So there are ways to make these types of dishes very healthy. And believe me, when you do this, if you do it over a long enough period of time, you're going to reap the benefits. Now, there's plenty of people who say, I just can't get the 9 servings of fruits and vegetables or the 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables in a day. So how do I do that? There is another alternative. So I personally, in the morning, make one of 2 things 5 to 6 days a week. I either make bone broth. So I'll make this bone broth, and it's a little bit bland. So my wife and I will split one of these kettle and fire bone broth soups. We'll boil that and we'll consume bone broth. The kettle and fire soup has some healthy fats. They also have just enough carbs for it to be healthy. And then again, I add some of that Himalayan sea salt, or we make a smoothie. So we use the Max Living Protein. We dump some type of berry, blackberries, raspberries, whatever. I'll use a handful of frozen spinach. I'll use some sort of healthy fat like coconut milk or almond milk or something like that. And then I'll throw a handful of almonds and blend it all together and have a healthy smoothie in the morning. So that's a great way to get protein. It's a great way to get healthy fat. If you're going to have carbs, you're better off having them in the morning. But if you just can't get greens or you can't get vegetables into your diet as effectively, we carry a product called Max Greens, which is dehydrated vegetable juice that you can shake up in water, or you can dump into a smoothie or with milk or whatever you like. But I like to dump it in with my protein because it covers up some of the flavor. I'll openly tell you it doesn't taste great, but it tastes way better than some of the other products that I've had. Another choice would be to, for instance, get fruit and vegetable juices from Elixir Juice Company. They're the only organic juice company in town. So Elixir Juice right here in Rockford is another opportunity if you're just trying to sneak some extra fruit and vegetable juices into your diet. But the best way is to eat them whole. That's where you get the fiber. That's where you get a lot of those most usable nutrients and ingredients. And I'll also mention that there are ways to get healthier fruits and vegetables cheaper. So for instance, one of the things that's important to do is if you can, go direct to the source. So in the summer, there's farmers markets. If you've ever belonged to a CSA or a crop share organization, the Rockford has one called Angelic Organics that's just fantastic. So for over half the year, if you don't have a spot to make a garden or something like that, you can join a crop share, and it's considerably cheaper to feed your family with organic fruits and vegetables from those places. But those are some of the things you can do. If you're looking for better meats, there's Chestnut Cliff Farms is a company out of Freeport, Trail Bardell, great natural farmer. Again, when you go direct to the farmer, and you can get as little as 17 pounds of meat at a time, but you can get an eighth of a cow or a quarter of a cow, things like that. Online, there are some things that are a little more expensive but convenient. Outside of going to the grocery store, if you want certain types, like Butcher Box is something that'll ship direct to your door. There's just a bunch of stuff when you really get out there. Another company for fish, the company we use is called Sitka Salmon, Sitka. And 7 months a year, we get a box of fish that was caught within 2 weeks in Alaska, sustainably caught, wild caught, and filleted and shipped to your door. So again, there's different ways to get really high quality foods, really high quality stuff that can make a big difference in your health. Now, I mentioned salt. Why is salt so important? Well, first of all, many people consume way too much bad salt. So iodized salt is considered bad salt. Salt should have somewhere around 32 different minerals in it. Iodized salt has two. It has sodium and it has iodine. So that was done because in the 100 years ago, because people were getting goiters, they're having issues with their thyroid. Most people have enough iodine that they don't need iodized salt, or it's already in some of the processed foods that you eat, or you're going to get iodized salt at most restaurants you go to. So you get enough iodine for most people. But sea salt is where you want to go because you get all those different minerals. Sodium is essential for the absorption of water. And over half of all Americans are chronically dehydrated. I'm going to say that again. More than half of all Americans are chronically dehydrated. To get enough water, you need to at least consume half of your body weight in ounces. And if you consume caffeine, you need to consume an extra ounce of water for at least every ounce of caffeine that you consume. So if you drink 12 ounces of coffee in the morning and you weigh 200 pounds, you need to drink 100 ounces of water plus 12 ounces, so 112. Now, you might think that sounds like a little or a lot. For reference, when you see people drink a gallon of water a day and think, how could I do that? That's 128 ounces. So if you're 250 pounds plus, you should be consuming a gallon of water a day. Water is essential for weight loss. Water is essential for regulating your blood pressure. Water is essential for detoxification. And a lot of people do not get enough. It's essential for energy. So again, one very positive of this, you can salt the heck out of your foods, even if you have high blood pressure and that when you're using sea salt. For many people, there's actually even studies out there that show that consuming sea salt and water can lower blood pressure. So again, do the right things, get the right outcomes, look for the root cause of the problem. So if you struggle to lose weight and you're not getting enough water, just getting enough water for a couple of weeks might get you kicking some of that weight. Now, we're going to talk about eating plans. So what if you need to lose weight? What if you need to get your blood pressure down? What if you need to get your cholesterol down? What if you want to increase your mood? What if you, whatever, the advanced plan. This is hormone-based weight loss. This is the healthy way to do things, not with cheap fillers with a bunch of artificial sweeteners and crap. Artificial sweeteners, by the way, are linked to increases in insulin resistance, increased weight loss, and they're severely neurotoxic. They're linked to things like MS, cancer. So consuming things like Sweet and Low, NutraSweet, sucralose, they're absolutely horrible for you. If you're going to use a sweetener that's 0 calorie, you want to either use stevia or xylitol. Quick warning, xylitol is toxic to animals, kind of like chocolate and raisins and stuff like that. But stevia and xylitol are two sweeteners that are 0 calorie, but they don't have all the side effects of artificial sweeteners. Things like Diet Coke, so incredibly horrible and toxic for you. It's just, we cover that in other nutrition classes, but they're terrible, absolutely terrible for you. Now, the advanced plan, 5 simple rules. Cut out all refined carbohydrates, period. All grains, all breads, all everything. Cut out high and moderate glycemic fruits as well as starchy vegetables. That means cutting out potatoes and cutting out most fruits. So you can ask Siri what low glycemic fruits are, but some of the basics are basically all berries, green Granny Smith, apples, lemons, limes. There's certain cherries, but low glycemic fruits are okay, but done in moderation. The reason is you want to get your blood sugar lower to get your insulin sensitivity down and kick your body into ketosis so that you can really burn body fat. But the reason I said hormone-based weight loss, you need to be consistent on it for at least 2 weeks, ideally for more like a month. We even had a study once in Max Living that showed that people who followed this perfectly, if they needed to lose weight, on average lost 20 pounds in 30 days. There's a lot of factors in that. I'm not claiming those results. I'm just telling you that there is the possibility to lose a significant amount of weight without counting calories. The next thing is to moderate your protein. So no more than 30 grams in any given 2 to 3 hour period. The next thing is to increase healthy fats. So going back to the beginning, the coconuts, avocados, just nuts, seeds, things that increase your, that are good fats. And lastly, to avoid toxicity. We're not going to go into this a lot because it's not a detox seminar, but more than roughly half of Americans that are struggling to lose weight are weight loss resistant because they're so toxic. America is one of the most toxic countries in the world. In fact, more toxins are consumed in America than any other first world country. The number one toxin consumed in America, by the way, is medication. So again, not saying you should or shouldn't, but keep in mind all medications are chemicals. They have side effects and they are toxic and they have to be metabolized by your detox organs, but also preservatives, fillers, food colorings. These are all terrible on top of the herbicides, fungicides, pesticides that are sprayed. There's just a reality that those things do cause damage to your body. And we could go into things like how they throw off your endocannabinoids, which has led to the rise in things like consumption of CBD to offset that. There's arguments or research that shows that that's because of all the, the Roundup or glyphosate that we spray on all these things. And I can go all the way down that. But again, Nutrition 101, these are the basics. So to summarize, if you're going to spend more money at the grocery store, it goes meat, dairy, everything else, clean 15 and dirty dozen. We do have that sheet available to you at the office. If you know you need help, you're an active client, you can schedule an appointment with our nutritionist. And that first appointment is fully complimentary. You simply request an appointment. They schedule, you fill out a survey to help her know what issues you're dealing with and what your goals might be. And it's a customized discussion on how to help you eat healthier and live better. So that is complimentary to active clients. We also have a program called Shop with the Nutritionist. So every month or every other month, she'll actually take you through the grocery store and show you where to find these things. So take advantage of that. Ask when the next one is. You can email us at chiropractic811@gmail.com. You can send a Facebook message, but you have the opportunity to maximize your health and healthy eating by being an active client at Chiropractic First. Lastly, change your cooking oils and think about which supplements you need to take yourself, for your family, and for your children potentially to lead and live your best life. So that is Nutrition 101 in summary. I hope you enjoyed it. Take action steps, change 2 to 3 things that you're buying every time you go to the grocery store, and prep your meals. Cook at home as much as you possibly can. If you need more resources, you can go to rockford.maxliving.com or go and look in your book, chapters 3 and 4, the book that you were given when you started as a client. Chapters 3 and 4 are the chapters on nutrition, and Appendix A has recipes, meal planning, advanced plan eating lists. The resources are there. Just utilize them. Have a very blessed